What's up, guys? It's MENES back again with the Azura Media Club, home of the Bad Girl Coven. We're talking Panzer Dragoon Saga today. Uh, the third of the Panzer Dragoon games, none of which I've reviewed thus far because I couldn't beat the other games. I got really close to beating the first one, I think, and I don't think I got very far in the second one there. But I beat this one. I almost gave up at the very end. The game itself is sort of an RPG crossover with the concept of like Panzer Dragoon there, the whole dragon flying gameplay. That happens in the game, but that's mainly how you travel between uh, the world map and like the game overworld and whatnot. Or just like the dungeons and whatnot too, or just like the areas. You fly pretty much everywhere. The only time you're walking around is like in towns and occasionally other times. But that's pretty much the entire like movement of gameplay is either you're on a dragon or you're walking around or whatever as yourself, and that's in a non-combat scenario, you know. But there's a whole RPG system here where you have a bunch of stats, you know, your typical magic and health and defense and attack and stuff, represented by power here. And you have different guns that can basically give you more power, like less power, but like and you have to use each of them too, because like one can target like multiple enemies, but one can target like weak spots because every enemy has a weak spot for the most part, um, and it can hit them for more damage with that weak spot. So that one's helpful. And there's one that just gives you more power. So you kind of have to figure out what scenario you're in and which one you need, and you can switch between them in combat. But the thing about combat is you have these gauges that fill up, and if you have a higher agility, there's four stats that you can do on your dragon there, and you can kind of customize them based on how you feel. So you can and that actually gets you certain moves and stuff like faster, I guess, something to that effect. Anyway, for most of the game, I focused on magic power and agility because the agility fills the gauge faster, and that's really helpful in combat. So pretty much any time I did anything, I had the agility higher. And then near the end of the game, I added a little bit more to defense and attack because the final boss was an asshole, and it took a little bit away from the magic power because at that point it wasn't really doing anything. Earlier on in the game, it's very helpful because it'll give you um, more efficient spells, like your spells will cost less and whatnot. But by the end of the game, I had 999 magic, and every time I would cast a spell, every time I would do that, like it wouldn't matter. It barely affected anything, you know. I never got to like zero near the end of the game. I don't think I ever got to zero, honestly, you know, at all. Like, so, yeah. But anyway, so you can kind of customize your dragon. That's kind of a cool thing. You have the guns, like I was talking about, and that all kind of affects your like power for when you're hitting enemies. And certain enemies you want to use like certain different ones and stuff. And so like when your gauges fill up, you've got three of them. Uh, you can perform an action. Some actions, like some spells and stuff, cost more. Like some of the like really offensive spells and whatnot cost more. They kind of become like pointless by the end of the game because you're just doing more damage with like the best guns. There's not like a ton of guns to upgrade and stuff, like, but you, you know there's like two really. Honestly, you get some at the beginning of the game, and then you kind of get some at the very end of the game. And if you're wondering what all the money is for, that's what it's for. Save up 50,000 for the end of the game. Um, you can buy healing items and stuff, but you don't really need to because you're gonna find them all over the dungeons and stuff if you're exploring decently. Um, the thing about the combat though that I'm not gonna say I don't like it, but the whole game is basically combat. There's not a lot going on other than that. You know, you go around, you talk to some people. The story is okay, and it's not that interesting or anything. The characters are fine. You know, I like the main character, and I like Azel, and I like their kind of thing that they have going on there. And the rest is just whatever, you know. You're trying to stop the Empire, typical fantasy stuff, you know. So, but um, there's a lot going on in terms of gameplay, because that's what the whole rest of the game is, right? So pretty much the whole rest of the game is just exploring and then battles, you know, on the top of these dragons or whatever, and solving a few different puzzles and stuff. Sometimes it gets a little confusing because, like, the dungeons are laid out really weird, or, like, sometimes the camera gets in the way of you being able to, like, interact with something, which gets really annoying. Like, I was trying in the tower, like, the final dungeon, I was trying to activate this thing that would stop, like, these rotor things from going on. Like, I'd already hit the other thing in the other part of the dungeon to activate so that they could, so that when I hit the thing in the main chamber, it would stop. But I couldn't get the main chamber thing to work, and I'm like, am I just crazy? Did I not hit the thing in there? So I go back in, backtracking, right? It's the biggest sin. Didn't JonTron say that? And, like, his first review is, like, the biggest sin in gaming is backtracking, and it's like, it's true, you know? And it just turns out I was just at the wrong angle. Like, I could see the thing that I was supposed to be interacting with, and it was right in front of me, but for some reason, the only way I would ever be able to interact with it was from, like, way above. Like, it didn't make any sense, but sometimes that becomes a problem, is, like, the camera stuff, but it's not like I can't see what I'm trying to get at, but, like, you know, in a scenario like that, I just can't interact with what I'm supposed to be interacting with, and so that becomes the problem, you know. Sometimes you can't see, or, like, you can't. It's more like you can't interact with the thing that you're supposed to be interacting with. You can't really move the camera, even if you have, like, the cool, fancy Sega Saturn controller like I have. Where's that thing? I put it somewhere. You know, the one with the, like, the little circular pad and all that. That controller works well. I like that. You can use that for this game. I don't know. I'm not, like, I liked the game, especially earlier on, but, like, by the time Disc 4 rolled around, I'm a little burnt out on the game, you know, and especially since Disc 4 is so fucking brutal, with, like, minimal save points and whatever. Like, I'm going to talk about the final boss. Spoilers, sort of, for Panzer Dragoon Saga. I mean, they are spoilers, but it's like, whatever, you know, like, okay, so the final boss isn't even, like, a thing that, like, has been established so far, basically. Like, you think the final boss is going to be Kramen, and then he just kind of dies in a cutscene at the end of Disc 3, and you're just like, oh, okay, I guess what's happening now? So then you go and fight a bunch of dragons at the bottom of the tower. Like, you have to go through the top to get to the bottom of it. It's weird. Like, that's another thing. What are we playing? Symphony of the Night here? I go through to the top of the tower in the fucking previous disc, and now I'm going to the bottom of the tower. It's some bullshit, I tell you. They have all these side quests and whatever. Like, get all this stuff and, like, all those best items and whatever. And if you do a very specific side quest, I guess that I didn't do. I thought I did it, but I guess I didn't do it. You can get one of the best, like, guns at the end, and you don't have to spend 30,000 or 20,000 or whatever it is on it, and it'll save you a lot of money, but I didn't know that, so, you know, whatever. Do the side quests, I guess. I will say that if you do the side quests, and I did do the one that I'm about to say, but you will get the vampire, gun at the end there, which I think, like, leeches life or something. The guy literally never tells you to use it, so I don't know. I didn't use it. The guide also doesn't tell you on the final boss to use the shield, and maybe that would be obvious or something, but, like, the guide always tells you, hey, use this spell. This spell's really helpful. But it doesn't tell you that a lot of the time, too. Like, the shield. There's a part where these, like, phantom things are coming at you, and they do, like, 2,000 to, like, nearly 3,000 damage, which is like most of your health, or all of your health if you're like lesser on health or whatever. And I just finally figured out, hey, I should probably use the shield spell that I have. And so I used it, and I didn't take any damage. And then it also heals you for you know, the damage you would take, or after the fact, after the shield goes out, because it's only for a limited time. And so you're just like, what the fuck, guide? Like you're like, oh, you just kind of have to take the damage. No, you fucking don't. Use the shield, motherfucker. And I mean, it's all like just punctuated by the fact that the final the whole final stretch just pissed me the fuck off. That going down the tower, first of all, that was confusing as shit. That took forever. And when you finally get to the bottom, you can go back up and do stuff, but there's nothing to do up there. So I just go straight for it, right after saving, of course. Thank God. But you go through, then there's an unskippable cutscene. Okay, fuck that. Why would there be every other cutscene in the goddamn game is fucking skippable. And sometimes I had cutscenes that went like Metal Gear Solid, and they just like, you know, started skipping or whatever, and I'm like, oh shit. One time it even booted me back to the main menu, and I had to do shit again. Like, I learned to just skip some of those, because the story's just okay anyway. So, yeah, so it's a fucking, like, 2-minute unskippable cutscene. 2 minutes at least. I think I'm being generous. It's like at least 3 or so minutes of unskippable cutscene. And then right afterwards, there's a skippable cutscene. Like, what the fuck? Just let me skip the goddamn cutscene. All I want to do is go back and fight the final boss. For that matter, fuck the unskippable cutscenes, whatever, you know, right? Put a fucking checkpoint save thing in the final boss chamber, so once I beat the 6 goddamn dragons, or 5, or whatever the fuck, you know, all these, you know, attack style, agility style, fuck those guys, right? They're easy. They're not even that hard. I just don't want to do them every time before I go and fight the fucking frustrating ass final boss, right? I don't want to do that every time after I'm wading through this unskippable. The final stretch there is just a test in your patience and your frustration, and by that point I just fucking had it. I lost it. I was not that many. I say this all the time, but it's kind of not true. Sometimes not that many games frustrate me, but like when they do shit like this, it frustrates me. I mean, they're breaking their own rules. Every other cutscene was skippable. Make it skippable. Let me save past the cutscenes, you know? Even if you want me to fight the 6 dragons or whatever, I'll do it. Just let me save after the cutscenes in the chamber before the dragons show up. And then after I save, let the dragons show up. Okay, great. You know, or something. Let me activate a thing and then they show up. And then I have to fight them. Alright, whatever. Not great that I still have to fight them every time, but like, you know, waste 10, 15 minutes of my time every time before I fight the final stupid boss. But still. Yeah. So the whole game is just basically fights, you know, in terms of you're traveling and then you fight something and then you get items from the things, the weird, like, I don't know, they're not pyramids, but like the weird skinny pyramids. I don't know what you fucking call that. Trapezoid? No. It's a rhombus? I don't know. Anyway, so I would call them cylinders, but they're not, because cylinders are round, right? Or can cylinders be square? These are the real questions you gotta ask yourself. Is it like a post at that point? I don't fucking know. Anyway, you get items from those things. A lot of items are kind of worthless. You can sell them, but some items you need, it's like, it's inconsistent. There's a lot of key items. Apparently, I was supposed to be collecting these D units the whole time, and I had like most of them, but I missed like number 1 and like number 5 and like, I don't know, a bunch of random numbers, and there's like 12 of them to get the like final cannon or whatever, and it's just like, I didn't fucking do that. Like, I didn't know I was supposed to get them all, you know? Gotta catch them all. Panzer Dragoon Saga. I didn't know that shit, you know? Like, I don't know. I guess get all the D units or whatever so you can get the final laser. So your guns, your lasers more powerful. There's lasers and there's guns. They're 2 different things, by the way. They'll attack 2 different ways, and a lot of enemies are only weak to one or the other, and it's annoying. And a lot of enemies are really annoying in this game. You like circle around them. There's like 4 different spots you can be, and the radar tells you if they're like, if it's like green, that's a safe spot. If it's like, you know, clear, that means that they can attack you, but it would be lesser. And if it's like red, that's like a big attack area. So you want to always get away from the red, but sometimes you can't get away from the red. It's a whole fucking thing. And then their weak points are always in the red zone, you know, so you're going to be fucked there. You got to get... And then you try to move to the other zone, but of course they're going to attack you like 17 times, and you're just like, what the fuck, you know? So the game's pretty frustrating sometimes, you know? And it really tests your patience. But, you know, I mean, despite everything, it's a pretty fun game, I guess. It's not like $1,200 fun, but, you know, I only paid like $600 like several years ago, so the reason for that, I think, I mean, it's a stupid reason. The game should still be worth more than that. Because the case is in great condition. The only problem is I don't have the little sleeves that go in there, so mine just came with a bunch of CD cases, which is, like, honestly a better solution for this whole thing. It came with 4 CD cases, and my discs are in great shape and everything. It's just, they're supposed to be... You're supposed to put the one of the discs there, and then there's supposed to be these little sleeves that, like, go in these little notches here. It's stupid. It's so stupid. There's guys on eBay selling like one of those sleeves for like $50, and I'm just like, fuck you, dude. I mean, fuck that, you know? Like, what am I gonna spend like $200 just tracking down a bunch of sleeves? Like, I can make that for fuck's sake, you know? I mean, wouldn't be exact, but it'd be something, you know? So, fuck them, you know? Anyway, this game's really expensive. Apparently they lost the source code, just like House of the Dead or whatever. Although I think they've just re-released that one somehow, so I don't know, maybe they can do it at some point. I'm trying to beat it and sell it before that happens so that the value's still there. So, hey, I did it! I beat it! I seriously, I died on one of those. I did like 3 or 4 attempts at that final boss, at least. I'm sure it was more than that, honestly. In one of those attempts, I died, and I'm just like, do I keep going? Is this it? Am I just gonna stop right here at the end? And I'm like, no, I already invested all this fucking time. I'm gonna beat this game, you know, so. I would say it's like a 20 to 30 hour game. It's not that long. There's only 4 discs, and each of the discs are, I don't want to say fast, but like, you know, they'll take maybe like 4 to 5 hours each. So, every time I'd play the game, I tried to just get through another disc, you know, basically, so. Yeah, I wish I had nicer things to say, but I got really frustrated at the end. And unfortunately, a lot of the game is like that, you know, it's very frustrating at moments, and, since most of the game is just combat, and, some of the enemies are, like, most of the enemies are really annoying, yeah, it gets a little, heated when playing this game, so. But it's not a bad game. I do enjoy the game. I just have some problems with it. The music's pretty good, I think. I was always really listening to other stuff, but it sounded pretty good from what I heard. You know, and at the end of the day, I mean, it's a visually a very good-looking Sega Saturn game, and I really will highly praise it for that. It did 3D very well on Sega Saturn. I mean, it's pretty crazy, because the Sega Saturn notoriously, really not meant to have done 3D. But this kind of proves what it could have been if it hadn't, like, failed, because it's a really late release Sega Saturn, so. Yeah. I'm gonna say overall, though, it was pretty good. Like I said, visually, very, very good. The gameplay's good. I mean, it's solid. There's a lot of aspects to it, and a lot of really unique stuff, like customizing your dragon and whatnot. I think there's is a really interesting feature. And I wish I had, like, really explored that a little bit more. I guess, I don't know. I was just trying to get through the game, so but if you want to, like, really play around with it, you probably could, and, like, optimize for each battle or whatever, which would be pretty cool. So yeah, it's a good game. I don't know if it's worth the money. I wouldn't say it's worth the money, probably. I would say emulate it, but it becomes really difficult to emulate Sega Saturn games, and that's part of the reason why Sega Saturn games retain their value still. So um, if you want it, I'm selling it. Go to Azura Media, or Azura Gaming. Is it Azura Game Club or Azura Gaming? It's Azura Gaming Collectibles is what it is, on eBay there. So maybe I should leave a link in the description, and then you guys can just jump right to it. So I should start doing that now until, like, these things sell. But then the links will just be dead later, but it's fine. Yeah, so, but I liked it overall, despite how frustrating it was, because it was frustrating. So I will put that out there. The battles can get really frustrating, and not necessarily tedious, but sometimes they line you up with, like, 5 or 6 battles in a row, and it's just kind of like, oh my god, are we done yet? You know, like, kind of thing. So there is that. But for what it is, it's a really solid game, and I really did enjoy it. So I'm going to give it, like, a 7.8 out of 10. And, yeah, Panzer Dragoon Saga in the bag. You know, there goes another Sega Saturn expensive game, like a top tier, most expensive collection game off the list to review. So now we'll move on to other games. Probably some Switch games. I want to play Princess Peach Showtime, and I have Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom I've been playing, so that's lots of fun. So we'll probably play that. I want to do House of the Dead at some point if my friends will get in on it with me, so I can sell that game too, because I have that one as well. So, but until then, stick around, subscribe to join the Bad Girl Coven, and I'm your Coven Leader, Emily. Never forget, magic comes from the heart, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Emily.